back in the capital city of the United States, Washington, D.C., for our annual Easter episode. This year, we take you with us on a tour of the National Cathedral. We are going to show you this beautiful building, talk a little bit about its amazing art, its history, and its importance. We are even going to discuss Darth Vader and an earthquake, too. So stay tuned to learn more about this national treasure. The Protestant Episcopal Cathedral Foundation received a charter from the U.S. Congress in 1893, empowering the foundation to build a cathedral in the nation's capital for the purposes of promoting religion, education, and charity. Though the United States government neither paid for nor ever operated this cathedral at any point. Construction began in 1907 and lasted 83 years until it was fully completed in 1990. Though the building had opened in phases over the decades. It is still an active Episcopal church today. You can attend Sunday services there. This is the foyer on the way to the main sanctuary. Tickets to tour the building are $15 for adults and $10 for children. Touring hours vary based on the program schedule of the church. As we enter the worship center, we get our first look at some of the 231 stained glass windows in this place. The cathedral was built with 150,000 tons of Indiana limestone in the Gothic style with pointed arches, vaulted ceilings, and lots of natural light streaming in through the stained glass windows. As we take you on this tour, if you enjoy it, please click the like button to give us a thumbs up.
Along both sides of the nave are corridors you can walk through, where you will see a number of points of interest. One example is this bay, which features the tomb of President Woodrow Wilson. Most presidents leave D.C. at the end of their term, but Wilson stuck around and is said to have enjoyed watching the cathedral being built. A number of presidential funerals have taken place in the National Cathedral, but Woodrow Wilson is the only president actually buried in the cathedral. He's in fact the only president buried inside Washington, D.C., though several are buried nearby in Virginia. There are carvings of notable people of faith. For example, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a theologian the Nazis executed for being involved in a plot to assassinate Hitler. He wrote an awesome book called The Cost of Discipleship, which I highly recommend if you're interested. There's a sculpture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He preached his last Sunday sermon right here in the cathedral before being murdered in Memphis later in the week. In one of the alcoves are some church remembrance books, one for those who passed away from COVID-19. And there were also some remembrance books listing those who had donated money, given gifts, or worked on various aspects of the cathedral in the past. These side corridors also are the best place for an up-close view of a lot of the beautiful stained glass windows. This particular one is called the Space Window. It honors America's space exploration. The black dot in the center of the larger circle is a moon rock that was brought back to Earth by the Apollo 11 astronauts. Here you see the main stage of the nave with the pulpit, which we'll discuss in a moment, and above that is one of 3 rose windows. These 3 large circular rose windows vary in size, but all are at least 24 feet in diameter. One illustrates the creation, one illustrates Judgment Day, and the other illustrates the vision of heaven described in the book of Revelation. The cathedral's pulpit is called the Canterbury pulpit, as it is made from stones from the Canterbury Cathedral in England. This is where Dr. King preached his final Sunday sermon. Others who have spoken from this pulpit have included the Reverend Billy Graham, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and even though the cathedral houses a Christian church, since it's seen as a national monument for people of all faiths, There have been speakers associated with religions other than Christianity who have spoken on this stage as well, such as the Dalai Lama, for example.
Both on this main level and the lower level beneath it, there are about 10 other smaller chapels that we are going to show you that are all magnificent in their own way. This room to the side of the main sanctuary is the Holy Spirit Chapel. The chapel is enclosed in wrought iron gates and features wood carvings and painted oak panels depicting Christ along with numerous doves, which represent the Holy Spirit. This chapel is always reserved for private prayer. Next, we come to St. Mary's Chapel. Along the side walls are 6 16th century tapestries depicting the story of David and Goliath, which culminates in this final tapestry of David carrying around Goliath's severed head. The altarpiece at the front of this chapel depicts the life of Mary through intricate carvings. Next is the cathedral's high altar. This is the massive altarpiece that you can see all the way from the back seats of the cathedral, about 460 feet away. This is intricately carved from French limestone and depicts more than 100 angels, saints, and martyrs of the Christian faith. In the center is the Majestus, a sculpture of Christ in majesty. Immediately surrounding Christ are 6 anonymous figures that reflect Jesus' teachings to do acts of mercy, such as feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and visiting the sick. In front of this altar is the Great Choir, a section of seats facing each other where the cathedral choir sits during Sunday services. Also in this area is the cathedral's immense pipe organ, made up of over 10,000 pipes. Next, we see St. John's Chapel. The altarpiece here is carved directly into the wall of the cathedral. It features a carving of the crucifixion of Jesus with his mother Mary and Jesus' close friend and disciple John standing at the foot of the cross. As you may remember, the rest of the disciples were in hiding at that point. Below that, a separate carving depicts the Last Supper, the night before Jesus' arrest and crucifixion. A bit around the corner, we find ourselves at the War Memorial Chapel, commemorating America's armed forces. There's a National Roll of Honor listing the names and dates of service of thousands who served in the U.S. military. There's also a 9 by 12 foot tapestry featuring the state seal of all 50 states, surrounded by the seal of each branch of the military. And then we see the Children's Chapel. A statue of Jesus as a child welcomes visitors in. This is one of only 2 cathedrals in the world known to have a chapel specifically created for children. Everything here is created at the scale of a 6-year-old child. The chapel was funded, in fact, by a couple that lost their 6-year-old son. The ceilings are much lower in this room than elsewhere, so children can have a good look at them. The chairs and organ in the room are also scaled to children's size. The needlepoint kneelers in the chapel depict animals marching 2 by 2 into Noah's Ark.
That was all just the main level. Now we're going down into the lower level of the cathedral, and there's still some great art and architecture to see. Plus, we're still going to talk about Darth Vader's relationship with this cathedral coming up as well. First, here's the Bethlehem Chapel, the first part of the cathedral to open back in 1912. The cathedral's foundation stone is under the altar in this room. The altarpiece and symbols in this room are associated with Christmas, when believers celebrate the birth of Christ in Bethlehem. Next, we come to the chapel of St. Joseph of Arimathea. This intimate chapel features a mural of Jesus' supporters carrying his body to the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, where he, spoiler alert, would only be temporarily laid to rest. The cathedral is the burial place of over 200 people, and this chapel is the entrance to the columbarium, where many of them are laid to rest. This chapel itself includes the remains of Helen Keller and her lifelong teacher and friend Annie Sullivan. Also in this room are the remains of murder victim Matthew Shepard. The Resurrection Chapel is the only room in the cathedral that features tile mosaics, which tell the story of the resurrection of Jesus from the dead and his appearance to his followers from Easter morning until his ascension to heaven. Such as this mosaic of Christ's appearance to Mary Magdalene on Easter morning. Many of the chapels are burial places for leaders in this church community, and the Resurrection Chapel is no different, as a former bishop is laid to rest here along with his wife and infant son. Here's the Good Shepherd Gate, a fairly recent piece of art that depicts a shepherd's staff along with vegetation growing beside still waters, all of which references the 23rd Psalm. The gate leads to this area featuring the flags of every U.S. state, and then into the smallest chapel in the cathedral, the Good Shepherd Chapel, which has seating for only a few people. Throughout the building, you may also encounter depictions of well-known Americans, such as this statue of Abraham Lincoln. Nearby, in the floor, are 34 Lincoln pennies on the ground, representing the 34 states of the Union at the time Lincoln was president. Behind him is a transcript of his farewell address as he left Illinois to head to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. We then took the elevator up to the 7th floor observation deck.
Floors 2 through 6 are off limits to the public, but when you get to the 7th floor observation gallery, you can get views of the city all around the cathedral. There are also some exhibits up there about the construction of the cathedral, including a number of interesting photographs from the construction work. From the observation deck, you can also see the current day construction work. Even though construction was completed in 1990, we learned from exhibits both inside and outside the cathedral that there was a magnitude 5.8 earthquake in August of 2011 that caused $34 million of damage to the building. The building was okay structurally, but some of the decorative stones high up on the building twisted and fell. Some of the building's supporting buttresses also cracked. Work is still ongoing to fix the damage, and the cathedral is accepting donations to help in paying for the expensive repairs. From the top, you can see some of the gargoyles that are common on Gothic cathedrals. They are not only decorative, they also act as rain spouts. There are also another type of decorative carving that helps direct rainwater away from the walls called grotesques, and one of the grotesques is, well, Darth Vader. There was a contest how to decide what form some of the grotesques should take, and a child suggested Darth Vader. So it was that a carving of Darth Vader's head became a grotesque on the northern, or dark, side of the cathedral. There is signage pointing you in the direction of Vader, but we couldn't make it out from the ground. There is a 90-minute tower climb for an additional $60 that takes you out on the open-air walkways high up on the cathedral to see many of the grotesques, gargoyles, and other carvings up close. I was not interested in that, but if you are, be prepared for some rigorous activity. We really enjoyed this tour, and we were moved by the artwork and the meaning behind it all. If you are a lover of art, or architecture, or Jesus, we highly suggest visiting the Washington National Cathedral when you are next in Washington, D.C. For those celebrating Easter, we wish you a blessed and meaningful holiday. We wish the same for all of our friends currently celebrating Passover. And if you are just celebrating the beginning of some warmer weather and a giant bunny hiding some colorful eggs, then we wish you the loveliest of springs. Check out the links at the end of this video for our past Easter episodes, including the Museum of the Bible in DC and a tour of the now closed Orlando attraction that we miss, Holy Land Experience. I'm Alice.
And I'm Jack.
Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so we can see you the next time we're traveling through.